Hey there ladies and gentlemen, Juan Romero here from SwitchWatch along with James and Jordan. You told us you wanted a list of the top roguelites and roguelikes on the Nintendo Switch. Well, we hope that this list delivers for you. What's the difference between the two? Well, take a look at the Berlin interpretation. This list will feature games that have elements from both. There's a huge variety here, some are turn-based, some include permadeath and some are dungeon crawling, but ultimately all are very fun. Before we get into this list, I want to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors EPOS, who have just released the wonderful broadcast quality B20 microphone. This is for all of you budding creators out there, and the great news is I've got one in hand now to give away to one of you guys who wants to use a microphone to create. I'm using it right now, I'm speaking into it right now. For your chance to win, you need to leave me a comment down below letting me know one game on this list where I voice using the EPOS B20. The great thing about the EPOS B20 is it's USB, so it's plug and play, whereas my Shure SM7B needs to be plugged into an amplifier. I'm going to give you a sample right now to help you discern the difference when making your choice. This is me voicing using the Shure SM7B. Now I'm back again using the EPOS B20. Can you tell the difference? Let me know in the comment section down below. Just one game where I'm using the EPOS B20 for your chance to win. You know what to do, and we'll let you know the winner week commencing the 13th, either on our bargains or our physical weekly videos. So stay tuned, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell if you haven't already. Let's get into the list. I'm going to start off with the daddy of all roguelites in my opinion, which is Hades. If there was ever a game to change one's opinion on whether a roguelite was for them, then this would be it. For me, there's so much to it. A great story, characters which are compelling and you want to know more, visuals and sound which is absolutely stunning in every department, but then it's the gameplay which is enthralling. Each run you will learn more, unlock more and build up your character for that all important next run, keeping you glued to this game. I just never seem to get bored of that one more run. The actions, the moves of your character, they feel fluid and fun to play. Hades is a game that we actually gave a 10 out of 10 to, so check out our review to understand why this game is so good by clicking that top right hand banner.
Dead Cells is featured on more lists than we can count, but for good reason. Some will say it's a Metroidvania, others will argue it only has elements of that genre. In truth, it's more of a roguelike with Metroidvania elements, and it's just a great action platformer. What makes games like these so great is you cannot pin them down to just one thing. They are a mixture of different genres and so can appeal to many different people. Whatever it is, Dead Cells has one of the many things that every game wishes they had: tight and fun gameplay which feels fantastic. A character you can upgrade how you want in terms of your playstyle as well. Each run you will learn more from death than life, and you will take this knowledge into the next run. It's a constant improvement that keeps you coming back for more. Here you will be slashing your enemies to death, shooting them with arrows and then dodging their attacks. Enemies are plentiful, each carefully designed to challenge you in different ways. The design, fluidity and sound design are all top notch, and the dev team continue to release new DLC for it. An absolute top notch game and one of the very few games that we awarded a 10 out of 10 to.
Hey, what's up? How's it going, everyone? It's James here. Now, already this list has covered two absolute monster games, but if you love your twin-stick shooters, then Enter the Gungeon is one of our favourites, which also meets the quota of being a roguelite. Here, you go into a dungeon and take out hordes of crazy enemies trying to shoot the hell out of you, but luckily for you, you get to wield an arsenal of absolutely stunning weapons to take these enemies down, and it is finding these crazy guns which makes the game so much fun, along with all the dodging enemies, taking on enemies and seeing all of those colourful bullets fly across the screen like a bullet hell game. Sure, with each death you need to start the run again, but it's so much fun that no one really cares.
The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus is one of the games that I imported on the Nintendo Switch from our great friends over in the USA. At the time, it was the only physical for this game available, and it was one of those games that you can pour thousands of hours into. One of Edmund Macmillan's greatest games, in my opinion, another twin-stick shooter where little Isaac shoots tears out of his eyes at enemies which include all sorts of nasties in the depths of hell. But it is the random power-ups which makes this game so good and can change a run from being good to great. Some may lament the random nature of the game, citing it as being unfair at times, but that's also what makes the game so damn compelling for me anyway, as you never know what you're gonna get.
Minecraft Dungeons is a great little game that you can play with another and have a lot of fun with. Each run through will see you getting better loot to equip your character, making you stronger, which then lets you take on the harder and harder difficulties. There is loads of loot and your character gets to keep this even when you die, so it's a very approachable game for the more casual player. The dungeons are randomly generated each time, so each time will be slightly different, and there are loads of enemies and bosses to keep you occupied. There's always the possibility of finding a nice rare and some secrets too, making this a great choice with the family.
Slay the Spire is one of the best card building games around on the Nintendo Switch. Choose your cards wisely and discover hundreds of cards to add to your deck with each attempt to climb the spire. Each time you attempt a new journey up the spire, it will change, making each game different and unique, allowing you to take differing risks. There are powerful relics here, and overall just a really fantastic game, especially if you're into those types of card builders.
Next up is Flinthook. Now this is a fast action platformer with roguelike elements and a really cool retro design and soundtrack as well. You've got to take down all sorts of enemies in this space thing adventure with fresh hot bullets, and it looks really cool with slow motion powers as well. What's really cool about this one is that each level is unique, as the ships are procedurally built from hundreds of handcrafted rooms that are modified by various variants and then filled with extraordinary treasure and populated by random waves of enemies. This is a really cool little game worth trying out.
See, in this list, there's something here for everyone, and Moonlighter is one for those that like action RPGs in that Zelda top-down style. Here you can also sell the wares that you pick up from your dungeon runs in a shop, and even setting the price yourself. Seriously, what is not to like? This game is superb and very compelling. Will this shopkeeper become a hero? Well, that is up to you. The gameplay here is very good and has an art style we like, along with a really nice soundtrack. A game that if you have not tried yet, then don't delay, as it is excellent.
ScourgeBringer has to be one of my favourite gems in this list. The game is fluid, think Dead Cells but even quicker. Here you get to shoot and slash your way through enemies and it feels incredible to play. Bosses are fun to take down, but it's also really fun to explore the dungeon, which is always changing. While the visuals are simple enough, it is the fluidity where you can really see the quality of this game. If you've not played this yet, then do yourselves a favour and buy it. Either that, or play it on Game Pass that is available now if you have a subscription on your Xbox.
Children of Morta is an absolutely fabulous indie game. Your job is to protect Mount Morta, and you have a whole family to do it with, all of which have varying different play styles in this awesome roguelite dungeon crawler. The story is told by a narrator who will instantly draw you in. The visuals and epic soundtrack are the icing on the cake in this extremely compelling and playable title. Immortal Redneck is a wonderful roguelite FPS, a great arcade game which has you picking from 9 classes, and with each played through plunging you into a randomly generated dungeons. The gameplay is frantic, combining old school FPS with roguelite elements, and it also has that great arcade feel with twitch controls, and while there is permadeath here, there is also progression in the skill tree. There are 50 different weapons to have fun with too, and for me it's just one of those games which sits as one of the top FPS games on the Nintendo Switch. And if you want to check out some more, then take a look at our very comprehensive top FPS list, which I'll put in the top right hand corner so you can click on it after you've watched this video.
Cadence of Hyrule is a rhythmic action adventure game that combines gameplay from the great Crypt of the Necrodancer, but with the setting and music from The Legend of Zelda. It's just great in every way you can imagine, and an absolute delight which we all highly recommend. Mixing indie with one of Nintendo's biggest properties was a stroke of genius, and if you've not checked this one out yet, then play the demo and we are sure it will hook you.
Now this one is just a really cool game. Everyone is curious about what is down the well, right? I mean, if you've ever watched the Goonies when they are down the bottom of the well checking out the shiny coins and all the wishes they made over the years, then I am sure everyone at some point has been curious as well. Here you get to fulfill that curiosity as you explore the well looking for treasure. Here literally going downwards with those awesome gun boots to kill any nasties in the way. Each new run will be different, as this is a procedurally generated world and power-ups are stackable. This is probably the cheapest of all the games on this list, and one that I think everyone should try.
We think Into the Breach is one of those games that should be given a go, especially if you like strategy games that are turn-based. Here, each decision you make has consequences one way or another, and no decision you make will ever feel great because there will be many times where you actually lose something, i.e. you may make a decision that costs hundreds of civilian lives but allows you to continue the fight. You may choose to save hundreds of lives, but at a cost which may see you fail later. We really liked Faster Than Light from the same developer, and while this is not a sequel, it is a game which is also incredible as it's one of the highest rated games on the system.
In Void Bastards, you lead a bunch of prisoners through a 12-hour campaign in this FPS. We love this because as each prisoner dies, you take over the next one with a completely different set of skills, making this game feel rather unique, and any crafting you did with the previous character is retained on the next. The visuals here are fantastic, and the soundtrack is great too. It's just a great fun game to play, and if you've not tried this one yet, it's really fantastic, and there's a lovely little physical that you can purchase too.
Going Under sees Jackie the protagonist wield rubbish as weapons as she takes on the cursed ruins of failed tech startups. You see, failed businesses don't just fail, they cease to exist, sinking below the earth, and their employees become cursed monsters wandering forever. Of course, you need to put them out of their misery. It has an art style that certainly stands out, which is bright and colourful. There's lots of really nice, great humour here as well. Sure, each death sees you having to start the run again, but with so many weapons to use, and the fact that from each run you can use the cash generated to buy power-ups, which are guaranteed to show up in your run, this is a game which is a lot of fun. Death Road to Canada is one of the Play Asia exclusive releases, and a great game to boot. You try to survive an apocalypse by heading to Canada, of course. Action mixed with humour and zombies, you can definitely have a lot of fun with this one. Here though, permadeath means death. Each run allows certain decisions to be made, and a lot of your success will depend on your luck in the items which are generated on the run. This can lead to frustration and the game becoming a little bit repetitive. It's not the best on the list, but it is a good game, and it has zombies in it, so what's not to like?
Dicey Dungeons is a game that looks easy to write off. Text-heavy combat looks a bit of a turn-off, but then you start it and it wins you over with its cartoon-like visuals and humour. It's also got a pretty deep story too. You are a walking dice and need to escape Lady Luck in the ever-changing dungeon. There are 6 classes and one that will surely fit your playstyle.
Darkest Dungeon is another roguelike, but this is like no other, a turn-based RPG about the psychological stresses of adventuring through twisted forests, crypts and all sorts of other dark stuff you can think of. Stress is an apt word for this game because boy is it tough. The affliction system where fear, irrationality and paranoia need to be contended with. 16 playable characters to suit your playstyle. This is a top game if this is your thing. It should be added to your collection without a doubt, but bear in mind, this is one of the toughest games on this list to overcome.
On Abyss, you will unlock new items, rooms, bosses and even new rules. Each run will see random items drop, so it will feel unique every time you play, but of course with games like this, there is randomness involved and some items are much stronger than others. This is a cool game as each decision you make within the dungeon will change it up. This is a 2D shooter with each room posing a new challenge. This is a game that I particularly enjoyed.
In Nowhere Prophet, you are the last hope in this post-apocalyptic world where you lead a band of outcasts across randomly generated wastelands. This is another card game, much like Slay the Spire, but with a more serious tone. It is a single-player game which also includes permadeath. It is tough but rewarding, and there are over 300 cards for you to discover. We like the inclusion of Indian culture and the Indian-infused electronica soundtrack, which is really great and stands out from the crowd.
Risk of Rain 2 is a third-person shooter where it's your goal to kill hordes of aliens. Every 5 minutes the game becomes harder. Loot is randomised in each run, but the levels stay the same each time you play. You can play up to 4 players online too, there's 75 items to unlock, and you can also play as the new survivors as you unlock them, each having their own skills. We enjoyed the challenging nature of the game in these 3D environments.
Undermine has that art style and top-down view that we have become accustomed to in these types of dungeon crawlers. We love this game, it is tough but superb fun, and if you like games like Moonlighter or Binding of Isaac, then this will certainly be one for you, as this is an action-adventure but with RPG progression. Simply mine gold, die, and upgrade yourself. A very simple loop, but one that is super addictive. There are hundreds of items to discover, like relics, potions, curses, and more, which combine and stack to create a unique run each time. The bosses and enemies are challenging too. No one said it would ever be easy, but this was certainly a game that we had a lot of fun with.
Crypt of the Necrodancer is a rhythm-based dungeon crawling game. What more can you ask for than that? There is a great soundtrack and the gameplay which is very addictive indeed and really different and enjoyable. The dungeons are random and you must keep to the beat or otherwise you're doomed like all the other folk who don't have any rhythm. There are zombies, skeletons and all sorts of foes to take down with your awesome rhythm, and there is even a cart mode, but you just need to make sure that the person you play with has some rhythm or it will be a frustrating experience.
In Atomicrops, you own a farm which you inherited from your grandfather, but this is now a post-apocalyptic world and it got a bit of a nuclear blast unfortunately, so that means you need to defend your farm from nasty mutant pests by shooting at the same time as tending your farm to grow crops and sell them to the town for hefty profits. This is a cross between farming sim and shooters. Oh, and you can get married too. This has a sprinkle of roguelike elements with a color palette of someone who just barfed up a tube of Skittles. This one stands out from the crowd. This is available physically but only in Japan. If you want to import that, then there are links below in the description with our discount code. It has English, so don't worry.
Sparklite is an action-adventure game that takes place in the wonderful world of Geodia. In this one you get to enjoy amazing pixel art and a great soundtrack by Dale North. The game contains 5 unique and procedurally generated biomes to explore, each with its own vibe. It is loads of fun, and the developer has been adding loads of updates to make this an even better experience. With the latest version, there's lots of new content to help you stay busy. If you don't own the game, then now is the time to dive in.
Neon Chrome is one of those games where 10 tons excel. Twin stick shooting at its best. Die here though and your run starts again. It is a ruthless top-down shooter, and of course being on this list it has roguelike elements. Again, as you build up your character from each run and subsequent death, your next run should be more productive. If you love shooters, then this will be for you, set in a cyberpunk setting where you choose to play as a hacker or a cyber psycho. As a couple of examples, there is sure to be a character that will suit your style. It is not easy, that is for sure, but a very good, challenging one and ultimately enjoyable.
Hell is Other Demons is an arcade shooter with a pretty awesome synth soundtrack, one that I had to add to this list as it was rather enjoyable. It is fast paced, and while the art style may not be everyone's cup of tea, it is the gameplay here that counts. The best thing about this is accumulating an arsenal of powerful enough to take down those demons and leave your high score on the board. Each run has procedurally generated action, so it has loads of replayability as well.
A robot named Fight was featured on our massive Metroidvania list, as this is a great Metroidvania game with roguelike elements. You need to survive here, which is a challenge, that is for sure, but with each new run you will encounter new layouts. That poses some deep challenges, as some layouts will be worse than others. Again, it will depend a little on your luck, but this is a great game to add to the collection. Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody is an enhanced port of a Wii game, which was also an enhanced port of a DS game, I think. This is the Chocobo from the Final Fantasy series thrusted into a mystery dungeon style game. With randomized dungeons, you lead a brave Chocobo through it with tamed monster companions as you try to save a town. This has just the right balance of mystery dungeon with accessibility to be one of the best entry points into the often unforgiving turn-based genre. Highly recommended, especially if you pick up the Japanese physical version, which has English. Links are below in the description and the pinned comment for that.
Dungeon of the Endless is a dungeon defense game, and by the way, it was almost £20 when it first came out, and it's now under £4. So if you get this one, you're picking up a great bargain if you're after a tower defense game. You must protect the generator of your crashed ship, whilst also exploring the dungeon facing waves of monsters and trying to find a way out. This is another good little game on the Nintendo Switch.
Tumbleseed was one of the first games on the Switch, and a very good one in that. You need to roll upon ever-changing procedurally generated mountain, avoiding traps and dangerous creatures using a twin-stick control system, which works very well. We massively enjoyed this and we feel it should have gotten more attention as it is also a nice looking game.
West of Dead has procedurally generated hunting grounds. This game uses a twin-stick control system where you will need to shoot your way to glory, but also use cover to your advantage. It is fast-paced and challenging, but a game that is really enjoyable, especially if you like westerns. The main character is voiced by Ron Perlman, which adds a huge amount of character to the game. This is a proper Dark Wild West game.
Steredenn is a genre mix of horizontal shooter and roguelike, and my god is it a wonderful combination. It is one of the most badass games available on the Switch thanks to all the production touches gone into it. The brilliant pixel art, the incredible heavy rock soundtrack, the vast array of weapons and power-ups, the crunch and shakes of the impacts. This is a game that I can pick up and play any day of the week. It is wonderful. It may have a bit too much randomness for those shmup puritans, but for those who want to kick back, kick ass just before you're getting your own ass kicked, this is a brilliant shooter.
West of Dungeons is a turn-based dungeon crawler game. It's a roguelike featuring good old 16-bit retro artistic look. There's an evil Dark Lord that's stolen all the light, so your mission is to enter his lair and defeat him. You get to play as either a warrior, wizard, assassin or a shaman, and you get to traverse these dungeons, defeat enemies, loot, and you know the rest of it. There's a nice physical edition of this one over at PlayAsia as well. And there's a link below if you want to check that out.
Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX is a remake of the original Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game on the Game Boy Advance and DS. A simplified take on the Mystery Dungeon genre as you delve into randomized dungeons as a handful of your favorite pocket monsters and gain new allies along the way. A great way to experience both roguelike games and the Japanese variety of that. God, I love this genre and what I would do to get Azure Dreams in here.
In Colt Canyon, you take your revolver to rescue your partner in this roguelike game. It's a 2D pixel art shooter where, of course, you're controlling a cowboy. There are other unlockable characters too. There's local co-op, loads of upgrades for your companions, but beware of that permadeath. The boss fights are great too, and there's a lot of replayability. We really enjoyed the art style here in this little pixel art game, and certainly one to keep in mind.
Fury Unleashed is a cool game sporting vibes and evoking memories from classics like Contra and Metal Slug. It then throws that together with gameplay patterns of more modern runners like Dead Cells, where you die and get some small permanent progression for your next run. It's all action as you take on the hordes with massive weapons, and although the Switch port does have a few little blips, it's overall a really fun experience worth checking out.
Shiren the Wanderer is a fairly old port of the latest game in the legendary Mystery Dungeon series. This is one of the granddaddies of the genre, and if you want some Japanese dungeon roguelikes, this is definitely one to go for to jump into the deep end. Fight your way through the tower in this turn-based pensive dungeon crawler and try not to lose absolutely everything if you fail.
If you like real-time tactic games, then this is for you. It's brutal, where you defend your kingdom against hordes of Viking invaders. This is war. With the broad strokes of battle, you give high-level commands to your soldiers, and they'll try their best to carry them out, of course. We found it to be rather deep, but simple to get into. Here you battle to keep the peace. A rather charming title. We like this one very much indeed.
Gungeon and Gravestone is a fairly recent Japanese roguelite dungeon crawler. I reviewed it for the channel a few weeks back, undoubtedly flying under the radar for many. If you're into the previously mentioned games of Chocobo Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, then you also want to take a look at this mysterious indie effort. It is getting a physical release in Japan soon, so check out my review for more info on this one.
Nuclear Throne is a post-apocalyptic roguelike top-down shooter where humanity is extinct and mutants and monsters now roam the world. And you've got to fight your way through these wastelands with powerful weapons, collecting radiation to mutate some new limbs and abilities.
City of Brass is brought to you by some of the senior developers that developed BioShock in this first-person action adventure. And we love the fact that you're armed with a scimitar and a whip where you get to slash and lash through those enemies, but you can also use traps too. Your goal is simply to reach the heart of this Arabian Nights themed metropolis or face certain death as that timer runs out. So it's a race against time, which keeps things rather fast paced and exciting. Thank you so much if you're still watching, ladies and gentlemen. We really do appreciate it. Please remember, if you want to win that EPOS B20, leave me a comment in the comments down below letting me know which game I voiced using that EPOS B20. If you missed that, then there are some samples at the beginning of the video to help you decipher the difference between the Shure SM7B and that EPOS B20. It really is a fantastic plug and play USB microphone. So we're giving one of those away. If you want to see more comprehensive lists like this, then don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification. Also, you need to be subscribed anyway so we can let you know the winner of that EPOS B20 week commencing the 13th. We'll let you know in either one of our bargains video that James hosts or the physical video that goes live on a Monday that Jordan hosts. We look forward to announcing the winner on one of those videos. Ladies and gentlemen, take care. We'll see you very soon on the next one.